I think I just basically thank them for the leadership of the organizations that are represented here today. And I indicated that for us to reach an agreement and to reach a solution which needs to take place in the state of Illinois for a broken system, that there has to be not only sacrifice but compromise, that the unions and the lawyers and the doctors and the hospitals, which are all friends of mine, are going to have to sacrifice. And the businesses, which are groups which are also friends of mine, are going to have to make compromise. They're not going to get everything they want, but they'll probably get at least what was in 1066 and potentially more. And so what we're looking at is trying to figure out exactly how to put that together in a bipartisan way to come up with relief for a system which is absolutely broken. The system was created in response to the Cherry Hill mining disaster in 1910. It's 100 years old. It's time to overhaul this system. It's an outlier. It's out of whack and it needs adjusted. And I think we have a historic opportunity to do that, to protect the rights of legitimately injured workers, but to provide relief to Illinois businesses that want to continue to invest and remain in Illinois.
And right now, what are the main hang-ups that have kind of stalled negotiations?
Well, you've got some very serious groups that are involved in this. It's complicated from a political small p perspective in that you have so many of very powerful groups within the state which are so divergent on the issue, and then you have the situation where it's very difficult to actually get something to where everyone feels like that there's shared sacrifice. And so inevitably one group feels like that they're taking more of the brunt than the other. One group feels like that certain reforms that we've considered or are considering is directed at them. And then some groups are aligned together on those reforms. So when you go down the issues of workers' compensation reform and you look at all the different issues out there, causation, UR, AMA, intoxication, wage differential, fee schedule, you look at all these different things, physician's choice, and it's a very complicated issue to put together from a political perspective. Now, the actual substance of it, I don't think, is all that complicated. Workers' compensation is not a particularly complicated area of the law, but trying to come to some kind of agreement or compromise or feeling of shared sacrifice is complicated.
And the governor was out here earlier and indicated there might be some form of agreed language or about causation, but not exactly what is in the bill.
Well, there's a causation bill out there, and it's my bill to get rid of the system. And it's my professional and legal opinion that if you want full causation, the only way to do that constitutionally and legally is to blow up the system and send them back to circuit court. I mean, we have a no-fault system in Illinois. The workers' comp system is a no-fault system. If you inject fault in a no-fault system, you have a different system. And so if you want fault to be part of the equation, then you got to go back to circuit court. That's my opinion. Now, you can nibble around the edges. You can deal with issues like intoxication. And when you deal with intoxication, you're really talking about causation because you're inserting a very small and limited piece of causation into the intoxication issue. You can dance around it on specific injuries, for instance, with carpal tunnel. You can nibble around the edges, but to just go straight from a no-fault system to a fault system, you can't do that without blowing up the entire system and sending those cases back to circuit court. And you've seen that in Missouri, where Missouri tried to do that, and the courts in Missouri ruled that if you don't have a remedy in workers' comp, that you get to go back to circuit court. And so cases involving work-related injuries are going back to circuit court in Missouri, and it's not a good situation that they've created there. So, you know, if you want causation, full causation, you've got to go back to circuit court. If you want to try to do some of these other issues that deal with causation, but not in that drastic a manner, intoxication, carpal tunnel, things like that, those are things we probably could do.
Where's your bill stand right now?
Well, the bill that I had in January obviously went away whenever the General Assembly from the previous General Assembly ended. We don't have a piece of legislation per se that's been filed. We're doing several different drafts. We're working with the various groups. We're negotiating with the caucuses, and we're trying to work together to come up with a bipartisan compromise solution. But we don't. I don't expect that you'll see me put a bill out until we have something put together that we feel that we can pass. I've done the other before.
And we're not there.
That's a lot of pain to go through until it's ready.
And we're not there yet in terms of agreement to have something to pass. I know Senator Rule said he might have a draft of something this week.
Senator Raul and I have been meeting on and off again all day, and we are working with Ernest to try to come up with something to provide relief and to get something done as quickly as possible. But we're not quite there.
Could it be this week, though? I mean, we'd been hearing
I
today
would
going to be this package rolled out.
I would love to get it done this week. I don't know. A lot of it is out of our hands, too. So when we get to the point where we feel like we've got 30 votes in the Senate or 60 votes in the House, then we can start moving a piece of legislation. And I don't expect that until we get to that point that I'm going to put anything out.